Thank you all for coming. So today's going to be very informal. I'm just going to talk for 30 seconds and then turn it over to our experts, Nelson Nygaard. This is really the beginning of a 3-day charrette. The idea is to get their expertise on as much as we can about all of Main Street and all of King Street. This is the kickoff for city boards and city staff people. They're going to be doing a tour today and walking. Tonight's a public meeting. You're all welcome to come back, but it's really primarily hear from the public on what their goals and visions and challenges are. They didn't work all day tomorrow. We don't talk to them. And then starting tomorrow afternoon and evening, they're going to have draft schematic plans back here in City Hall during the day and back here in the evening. And that's just informal. People will come by, look at the plans, talk to the team, leave Post-it notes on the plans and comments. And then they work all day on Wednesday, and Wednesday night back in this room, they're doing a presentation. And I'll let Jason do the rest of the introductions.
Sure. Why don't you guys come up with me? I'm Jason Shriver with Nelson Nygaard. Also brought along Mike Alba and Rick Chelman. I'm a transportation planner. I used to work for the city of Cambridge, and now I do a lot of multimodal planning all around the country in communities large and small. Mike Alba is a very strong graphic specialist, formerly from the Albany area. You can talk about yourself, of course, as I'm speaking for you. But also has become a real dedicated specialist in helping us do our multimodal design work. And Rick Chelman is a professional engineer, has recently joined Nelson Nygaard, has been sort of an expert in the field of traditional neighborhood design and new urbanism for more than a couple decades. And his sage advice and, of course, technical strengths on this is going to provide us with a lot of, I hope, smart thinking as we go forward on this. This is very informal, at least today, and the overall nature of a charrette like this is intended to be informal because we're not really trying to do some behind-the-scenes designing and then come to you with a 25% design hearing and then come back at 90%. This is actually, over the course of 3 days, intended to go from the level of knowledge that we all have about the corridor to something that seems rather real, tangible, and is supported by as many numbers as possible for what might be some realistic changes on the corridor that we're talking about, which is essentially downtown Northampton from the end of West Street, where Route 66 comes in at Elm, all the way through the State Street intersection and down along Elm into Main Street, right through the core and turning the corner on King, actually continuing probably down the railroad bridge on Main, but then turning the corner on King and looking at King Street all the way up to its Hatfield Road, I guess. And the idea for all of this corridor is to try to really think a little bit out of the box and to try to think about all the opportunities and the possibilities, and getting away from the formality of a rigid design process affords us the ability to look at it all comprehensively, but to hear from all of you as well about what are the things that are missing, what are the concerns that we should hear about, and what really, from your understanding, has been the successes or the failures of that whole area, and how the streets, the sidewalks, the bike connections communicate with it, across it, and through it. So this is really trying to get a sense from all of you about what the key concerns are and things in your mind. And to that end, I'm going to actually start on one side of the room. I'll probably start with Wayne and just ask folks to briefly introduce themselves, but to tell them a little bit, tell me rather, or us in the room, a little bit about why you're here, who you represent, and maybe one burning key point, if there is one burning key point, or if you can hold it to one burning key point, if you can come up with one. But before I do that, I didn't know if Mike or Rick wanted to throw in any other thoughts about our approach overall to design. You guys good with that?
We rarely need to say anything if you're here talking.
I talk too much. To that end, Wayne, folks don't know Wayne, you get to start out.
Okay. Wayne Feiden, Planning Director. My overall goal is making both Main Street and King Street more bicycle pedestrian friendly while maintaining or improving its ability to move cars through.
Joel Russell. I've lived in Northampton for 15 years. I'm a planning and zoning consultant and attorney. I've had the pleasure of working with Rick Chelman numerous times around the country. I'm a former chairman of the Zoning Revision Committee, which was looking at the whole city zoning, but especially at the King Street zoning. I have concerns about implementing sustainability in a way that makes it a really walkable place that ultimately will improve transit possibilities, and making King Street as pedestrian friendly as possible all the way up the entire study area. Also looking at opportunities for taking our Main Street, which is so wide and offers the possibilities for many more pedestrian amenities by narrowing the street by the sidewalks. So I'm very excited that you guys are here, and I hope I'm really interested to see what your ideas are.
Great, thank you. Go to the second row back there.
David Darkowitz. I'm currently the president of the city council, but I was past chair of our city's transportation and parking commission for several years. And obviously, these corridors have been an ongoing focus of the transportation and parking commission. Again, trying to figure out a way to accommodate all the various modes of transportation that we want to support in Northampton. Obviously, automobile traffic that passes through on Route 9 and 10 and up 91, but also, again, accommodating public transit, cyclists, and pedestrians, and trying to figure out a way to make all those things happen in a way that's safe and efficient and sustainable.
Great, thank you, Dave.
I'm Randy Johnson on the planning board. I think my main interest would be in getting residential mixed use in most of the corridor. I think that a lot of the success of downtown is due to the fact that residents were able to move back into town after many of the buildings being boarded up. And essential to pedestrian-friendly environment is to have pedestrians.
Absolutely, great.
Alex Gislin. I'm a long-term resident of Northampton, former city councilor, with a long background in the Public Transportation Commission. I'm here really representing public transportation. I'm on that subcommittee. Very limited resources. We have fairly good east-west transportation, at least during the school year, public transportation. But the internal circuit is very underfunded. It's a very long route, and consequently, it's hard to build ridership. So anything done there, I really would like to enhance public transportation, not in any way lengthen long runs.
That's good to hear about. Great, excellent. I'm going to kind of work this way across the room.
I'm MJ Adams. I serve on the Board of Public Works. My interest is making sure that the corridors that we're looking at are very mindful of the concerns of the businesses that thrive and survive there, while at the same time trying to decrease the carscape and increase the humanscape.
Absolutely, great, thank you. In the back, sir.
Michael Bodgley, a citizen. I have been on the city council and also on the transportation commission. I live in a downtown neighborhood, and when I drive through there, I'm concerned with the traffic flow on Main Street and on King Street. There's a lot of moving around. You have to do sometimes with people turning, and so it seems to me it could be a little, the flow could be more efficient. And when I'm walking downtown, I'm concerned about pedestrian safety and other ways of getting around town. Right now, it's not particularly friendly for bicyclists.
Right.
So to improve it for both of us.
Excellent. Sir?
Ned Huntley, Director of Public Works. Harp, like everyone else has been on, is basically King Street is not pedestrian friendly for crossing. So long as you're traveling north and south on one of the sides, it's fine, but trying to cross it isn't fair to do. And the whole corridor is not bicycle friendly either.
Yeah, I'm Rich Parasoletti. I'm the Highway Superintendent, Northampton Public Works. This is my first experience with coming to one of these. One of my chief concerns is maintenance of the existing corridor and any proposed changes that happen that are implemented implemented, how do we go forward as a city maintaining these things in the future?
That's good. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Hopefully in great detail. Laura.
Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Rick and Mike. I'm Laura Hanson. Hello, everybody. I'm transportation engineer with the city. I'm helping a lot with data collection, and as I say that, can I hand you the accident reports from the police department? And the other thing is, do you mind if I circulate an attendance sheet?
Oh, yeah, that would
Okay,
be
so
stellar.
I just
Yep.
made one up. We want to start with
That would be
Wayne.
excellent.
Thank you. There's many concerns, traffic flow, pedestrian, bicycle safety, bicycle lanes are a concern. The accident reports are showing several intersections of concern. And I'm just going to be with you most of the time for the next 3 days. Have a lot of concerns. Want to keep in mind emergency vehicle access, and I'll leave it in.
That's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. Sure, yeah.
My name is Bao Lang. I am with MassDOT. I'm the traffic engineer here. I'm here to listen to see what the city has in plans. And we maintain Route 9 and part of Route 5 and 10. So I'm just here to listen.
You're at the district office?
District office.
Excellent. Ma'am?
Good morning, I'm Debin Bruce, and I'm on the planning board, and that gives me a collateral seat on the Transportation Parking Commission, which has some sort of frustrating aspects to it, because that is where all of the traffic calming requests come to. I can tell you right off the bat, the city doesn't have the ability to respond the way we would like to. For you all to know, in that stack of papers you just received was 2 weeks ago, a young Smith student got hit on South Street, which is near your corridor, but not directly in it. So, you know, my interest would be to make sure that the traffic planning that we do creates a progressive environment that takes the city forward in a way. You know, I mean, everyone holds up Portland as being the sort of mecca of bicycle, pedestrian, you know, transportation. I'm amazed how many people in this town actually have gotten away from cars. And I'd really like for our transportation plan to get away from cars. I think we're sitting here in the middle of a time frame where, as we look back, this is going to be when gas starts heading up, and we really have to respond with transportation changes. So I'm hopeful.
That's great. Excellent. Sir, we'll go with you and work our way back again.
My name is Bill LaChance. I'm just a concerned citizen, business owner along the road.
You have a business right on one of the streets?
Yes.
Any particular observations, concerns, worries you've had?
I'm right at the corner of Hatfield and North King Street, and there are obviously accidents there, and it's good that we're looking at this intersection.
Great. In the very back, sir, do you mind?
I just walked in.
That's all right. We're all working. This is pretty informal, so we're just asking folks to introduce themselves, to tell maybe if they represent one interest or another, where they live, and then sort of your salient points of issues or concerns in this area.
Well, I'm a new resident here, and I have a pet interest in planning and bicycle travel in particular, so that's why I'm here. I can't say I have particular concerns about these roads because I just moved here. So.
I'm glad you're here. That's
Okay.
good. Fresh input is always needed in this room. Gary.
Good morning, Jason. Gary Hartwell. I sit on the Board of Public Works and therefore also on the Transportation and Parking Commission. Through the BPW, I sit on the Transportation and Parking Commission. And I'm a bike commuter, and been doing that for about 5.5 years, and I really enjoy it. And I sort of agree with you is that I sort of see this, we're at the cusp of personal motor transportation is going to wane, I think. So how do we make our cities more pedestrian friendly and public transportation, bicycling, whatever? Something's got to replace it.
Eventually, we may have no choice.
Morning, James Lowenthal. I'm on the Transportation and Parking Commission and also the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee. And I'm also president of the Pioneer Valley chapter of the Massachusetts Bicycle Coalition, MassBike. So we're the statewide advocates for bicycling. And my main concerns, like I think everybody who's spoken so far, are trying to ensure that whatever changes do happen on Main and King, we, in a proactive way, will help make it easier for people to bicycle and walk. And my main observation is that while 40% of the population in Northampton live within 1 mile of downtown, the great majority of those people drive to downtown. And I think that it's the built environment that tells them what to do. And if we have to change the norm. And it's for the reasons that everybody else has said, safety and sustainability. The long-term view is clearly going to depend on having a more balanced mode of transportation or palette of modes than we do now. And I think the message that we give right now with this enormously wide Main Street is, come on down, you know, drive your car downtown. It's the #1 message you get when you see a big road like that. And 50% of downtown is paved for parking and driving. And that's a very strong message, and we need to move it.
Great, thank you.
And this is my daughter, Mel.
That was enough, thank you.
Hi, I'm Terry Anderson, Community and Economic Development Director for the city. My main interest is, like you've heard from others, safety, but also promoting multiple forms of transportation in our commercial centers, and making sure that we do that in a way that ensures the continued success of our business community. These are both local commercial centers, but also regional centers, so we draw people from the local neighborhoods, but also from around Hampshire County and Western Mass, and even farther afield. So many of those people arrive in vehicles, and probably will do so for the foreseeable future, even though we are heading into, I agree, a transition period. But I guess I'll be the politically incorrect one and say that during that transition period that we need to accommodate all forms of transportation, as well as promoting safe and efficient bicycle and pedestrian transportation as well.
I'll go right ahead.
Yes, City Councilor Mary Ann Labarge from Ward 6, and also a family business on King Street for many, many years. I have seen on Downhamp every day so many people going over toward like the condo areas when you come up by the old Price Choppers building in that area, of using carts all the time, which I find is not a good eyesight. I also feel that it's very unsafe. The coming out of Stop and Shop, where McDonald's is, not the left side, but the right side part of it, I've actually seen people who just go straight across. I find that to be a safety issue. I think, and I have to agree with Terry Anderson, you need to look at businesses who have been there for a long period of time and be considering the businesses and being friendly toward the businesses on King Street. Pedestrian friendly, I think that's a big one. Also by Dunkin' Donuts in that intersection, which we have a business further up. I mean, I've seen them lines coming out of Market Street, just sitting there, and people trying to cross and go across Dunkin' Donuts. I see that every day, and I find that to be a safety issue. Transportation is huge. In my ward, we have tried for years to try to get busing just to come around our ward to pick up people to keep their cars home. And every time we turn around, money is the devil of all. I have concerns if we look at doing the reconstruction of King Street, that we actually look at the Board of Public Works as far as the maintenance part of it and money again. And hearing from people in the city that we're wasting money. I mean, we need to show that we're not going to do that, and that the Board of Public Works is going to be able to afford to keep the maintenance part of it. But I'm hoping that of what you heard today of bicycle friendly, walking being really considered here for the safety of residents who do use King Street and businesses and residential.
And Ward 6 is up along King Street, is that right?
Now, we're further out in the rural area, and a lot of people won't come to Northampton. They won't even shop on Main Street.
Right. It's not Old Ham. Yes.
I'm Catherine Baker with the Planning Board. And I think a lot of the things that I have already been mentioned that I would believe, but I'm kind of a fair weather biker, I have to admit. When it gets really cold and snowy, I don't bike. But I live close enough so that I can usually walk. But I am very concerned about how public transportation can interface with this desire for biking and walking, particularly when people are coming from farther areas that we've tended to refer to as sprawl. But people are out there, and people, as Marion said, want to be able to draw people into the center to use the businesses, and how to make that effective, that public-private interface is what I'm interested in.
Okay, that's excellent. We'll definitely talk about that. Sir?
Mark Sullivan on the planning board, and I guess my main interest would be a mixed-use development on King Street that makes sense on a lot of different levels, but from a transportation level especially. King Street, it's a tough place to walk. It's not a great place to ride your bike, and at times it's not even an easy place to drive. So the development of that corridor from a physical sense, that makes sense from a transportation sense.
We'll jump in the back.
I'm Andrew Weir. I'm also on the planning board. My main interest would be promoting alternative transportation and reducing impervious surface.
Good comment. I haven't heard one like that yet. Impervious surface, good.
Yeah, I'm Bob Reckman. I was for 14 years on the Board of Public Works. I've been a former city councilor. But the reason I'm here today is I'm a member of the Zoning Revisions Committee, and I'm on the Economic Development Committee of the Chamber of Commerce. And the Economic Committee of the Chamber of Commerce went to the Zoning Revisions Committee and said, we'd like to make some recommendations about King Street zoning. So we did do that, and the Economic Development Committee had a series of hearings. We spent 8 months coming up with some recommendations for King Street zoning. We passed them on to the ZRC, was passed them on to the planning board. And the problem we ran into it all the time was what had happened to the infrastructure. It was always, the zoning's important, but what happens to the roads and sidewalks is equally important. And I'm hoping that this process will lead to improvements for all of King Street.
Excellent, great, thank you. Bill?
Bill Lehender, the parking director for the city. As you might guess, I'm concerned about parking issues. Northampton has pretty much reached terminal mass as far as parking goes. We have no more parking. I'd love to create some more. And also, most of the points that have been touched on here are things that I would have said, so rather than repeat them, I will let somebody else talk.
I'm glad somebody brought up parking.
Carolyn Mish with the Office of Planning and Development. Many of the issues about pedestrian and multimodal safety and access, actually. But from a personal level, I have young children, and I feel comfortable biking on street in a number of places, but I would never let my children do that. And so I think addressing access for all age ranges, and this goes for older people who feel less comfortable, middle-aged people like me who feel less comfortable as well.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Lavelle with the Office of Planning and Development, and a lot of my concerns have already been addressed, balancing safety and economic development. But one thing that nobody mentioned so far that I guess I'll cover is minimizing curb cuts where possible, appropriate signalization.
Yeah, that's one of many strategies, obviously, we'll be talking about here. Sir, you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, if you like.
I'm Adam Cohen. I'm a citizen and a member of the North Street Neighborhood Association. I'm very interested in improving the pedestrian experience on King Street. Also agree with Bob Reckman that infrastructure issues, stormwater management has been important.
Great, excellent. Did I miss anybody? Did somebody come in that didn't get a chance to introduce themselves?